Hello, welcome to Kitchen Garden Therapy. My name is Slava, and today I would like to talk to you about some failures and successes from my spring garden. So my growing season started in January when we still had a ton of snow outside. It was the middle of the winter, but I started some of my winter sown containers. Then in February I started some seedlings indoors. In March I already started transplanting them outside, and then in April I was already harvesting some of the spinach and lettuces and other leafy greens. Right now is May and we're starting to get warmer temperatures. As you can see, my flowers are starting to bud. This is my peony. My roses are also nice, leafed up, and pretty soon I am sure there will be some buds on them as well. But let me take you to my back garden in my yard and show you some of those failures first, and then we'll talk about successes. And let's talk about failure number one, and this would be my Nappa cabbage. Yes, I know that's not how Nappa cabbage looks, but my Nappa cabbage decided to bloom. We had weather fluctuations from cold to hot, from hot to cold, and my Nappa cabbage didn't form a head. Unfortunately, it started blooming. It is still edible. It's like broccoli rabe or broccolini, but I was hoping to have that nice beautiful head of Nappa cabbage so I can make some kimchi. Unfortunately, I will not have homegrown kimchi this year. Maybe later in the season I'll plant Nappa for the fall weather. And this is not the only one I have. There is one over there. Let me show it to you. As you can see, this one is also starting to bloom. Right there. It has a lot of beautiful leaves, but it's not the leaves that I was waiting for. So that was my failure of the season number one. Failure of the season number two are my radishes. So I planted a ton of different varieties of radishes, and over here I have started picking already. These are my favorite French breakfast radishes, and these are, I think, early globe, and they are all bulbing up really nice. And I had been harvesting them already. There's a few left here and there. So they are really great. I love them. But these other strange, weird varieties that I was just trying for the first time, they are not bulbing up. So I have no idea what's happening. But I mean, look at this. Look, it has all of these leaves, but no bulb. And let's see, here's the same way. You see, it has a tiny skinny bulb. Maybe it will just take longer for them, but next week we're gonna have 80 degrees temperatures all week long, so there is no time for these radishes, and they've been here from March. So in the end of March I sowed them. If they didn't bulb up, that means something is wrong, and I know what's wrong. Look at this. One is blooming, same as Nappa. We had hot temperatures, then it got cold again. So these radishes were confused. They started blooming. They figured, okay, there is no time to make bulbs, so we better bloom and make some seeds. So I guess I'm just going to be left with these purple ones that some of them had bulbed up. Where are they? Yeah, these are purple. Here you go. Yeah, so these bulbed up. Oh, look at this one. So pretty. I love the color. So this purple one and these early globe and French breakfast. So these are the only radishes that I have had success, and all of these, the rest of them are not successful, unfortunately. Next failure of the season is winter sown cabbages do not behave good. They sprout too late and we don't have much of the spring. As I told you before, we jump from cold to hot very fast. So these are my cauliflowers that I winter sown, and as you can see, they sprouted nicely. They were looking good, but it was too late. It was like in the end of April when they started to grow because the weather was warming up, and I transplanted them here and they kind of got stunted and they're not doing anything. And these are my beets sprouting in between of these cauliflowers. Now let me show you my cauliflowers that I started indoors and then transplanted them outside. How are they behaving and how much of a difference is between these winter sown and the indoor sown? Okay, and these are my indoor sown cauliflowers. So this is regular white cauliflower, and this is Romanesco, which is a green shaped cauliflower slash broccoli. They are from the same family, very similar looking. So as you can see, starting in my conditions, starting cabbages in the winter sown containers is not a good idea. I've learned that lesson already, because they do sprout, but they don't have enough time to grow because, you know, pretty soon we're going to start having some hot temperatures, and most likely I will need to use some kind of shade cloth. I mean, I planted these in this one bed that doesn't get as much sun as, for example, these two other beds. You can see it's an early morning, and so far half of that bed is getting sun, and then later by noon, afternoon, this one will be, and this one will be the last. So this bed is only getting afternoon sun, which is not as strong as the noon, and hopefully these cauliflowers will have a chance to mature, and it's not going to be another of my failures, because so far I consider this a success. They are growing really nice. I'm just hoping they will form bulbs or heads. Now let's talk about successes, because there is many more of them than failures. And I would like just to show you a few from the spring garden. I'm not going to talk about the warm weather crops, but from the spring vegetables, cool vegetables, my successes are this rapini or broccoli rabe. This is the second year I'm growing this variety and I love it. I have already harvested some of the shoots and the leaves from this plant, and I have several of these. And as you can see, it is maturing fast and it's forming these small broccoli florets. There is another one right there, and there is more over here. This one I have harvested already, and there is one more right there. After you harvest the main stalk of broccoli rabe, it starts forming all of these side shoots, and in another couple of days I will be able to harvest them as well and make a soup out of them or throw them on the grill. So I said that winter sown cabbages were not a success. It was a failure and they are not doing well. But I do love winter sowing because other crops are doing great. So for example, lettuce. This lettuce right in between over here, those big ones, they were transplanted from the winter sown container and they're doing great. They had grown so much since I transplanted them. They're almost ready to harvest. While this lettuce that was transplanted from the indoor seedling, it will probably bolt in the next week because, as I said, we're expecting hot temperatures, and lettuces bolt really fast. And this one is like completely mature. I have been picking from it for weeks already. It keeps growing because, you know, that's what it does. But I am sure this is probably its last week in the garden, while those will go for another few weeks because they are a little bit more warm weather tolerant. So winter sowing does work, and it is great for certain crops like lettuces, spinaches, and stuff like that. Not cabbages though. Also, this bok choy, also known as winter choy, was winter sown, and as you can see, it is doing great. So some things are doing better than others by winter sowing method. Another success from the spring garden are these tatsoi and bok choy. I have already harvested 2 times from them. Of course, I do not harvest the whole plant. I only come and harvest all of these side leaves, bottom leaves, the same way as you would harvest lettuce. And they grow back and they form many more new leaves. And these baby leaves are the most delicious. I just love using them in my stir fries and all of the Asian dishes. One time I made chicken coconut curry with bok choy and tatsoi. If you haven't seen that video, I'll post the link over here and in the description below. And of course, I'm talking about purely my experience, my settings. Everybody's conditions are different, so if you've tried winter sowing for cabbages and it worked for you, that's great, that's awesome, keep doing it. I'm not trying to talk somebody out of doing certain things. I'm just sharing my experience and what works for me in my garden. Let me also show you another success. I mean, I didn't have the harvest yet, but it looks like I will be soon because they are starting to bloom. These are my broad beans, and I've seen blooms. Let me see if I can find it and show you. Yes, here they are. Can you see those? Those are flowers. So broad beans are the only beans that can tolerate cold spring weather. That's why it's best to grow them in the early spring or in the fall. And I planted a little patch over here and a little bit over there. Like in each raised bed I have a little bit of broad beans, and because those were receiving more light, they started blooming the first. So probably I'll have harvest from them the first, and then these will follow. And there's more over there in that bed. Another success, as I think of so far, is carrots. I planted them really early this year, and I planted them under this portable greenhouse where I was keeping the cover up until recently. And carrots take a long time to sprout. That's why I planted them so early. And they had sprouted really nice, and I have already thinned them one time, but it looks like I will need to thin them again. Let me also show you my Comfrey, which was not a failure or a success. It was just a pure mistake. I made a mistake of planting my Comfrey into a raised bed. And I did that because I mentioned it earlier in one of my videos on the channel that I sowed seeds of the Comfrey into the ground, and it wasn't growing, it wasn't doing anything. So I thought, okay, maybe it doesn't like the soil over there or the location, let me plant it in the raised bed. And I did. Now I have Comfrey growing in the ground and in the raised bed, and this one is doing much better. It is already starting to bloom, as you can see. I am planning to use this Comfrey for fertilizing my garden as a chop and drop, and also I'm planning to make liquid fertilizer out of it. The one that I planted from seed over there in the ground is not doing as well, but it's still growing. I don't know if you can see, but there's one right there, one here, and I think I've seen more over there. So that's my Comfrey. That's a little bit behind from the one in the raised bed. It is not related to failures and successes, but I just want to share with you that I had finally moved all of my seedlings from the seedling room indoors, which is over there. It is also my cat's room, and my cats really didn't like all of those seedlings being on the windowsill and on the table and just everywhere. So right now, as you can see, no seedlings in there, and my cat is so happy, one of them. Hi there. So now all of my seedlings are in this big greenhouse or in those smaller ones. So let me just show you what they are. They are the leftover of my peppers and some of the tomatoes. And some of these peppers are like, they were started really late in the season because I wasn't sure how those early ones will behave. So they are really tiny and small. And I also brought my sweet potato that's growing slips. I have a jar with slips that already have roots in my kitchen. I will put the picture right here so you can see. But this sweet potato keeps making more and more slips. And then all of my petunias I put in this greenhouse. They are really big, tall, as you can see, and I need to start transplanting them really soon. They are ready. There is more of them. And I also have some miniature tomatoes. This is that microtom. My herb tower is here. My eggplants also got moved into this greenhouse. And then what was left over in the greenhouse from before, it was already hardened off. So I decided I'm just going to put it on the shelves without any protection. And that's what I did. I put some additional shelves over here around my water hose. And here they are, all of the peppers and tomatoes. And this is the grill that's gas. We're not using it that often, so I am okay blocking it. But the regular grill that we use is right here. Today is supposed to be first nice weather day after a week of rain, so I am planning on planting some of these seedlings into the garden where I have room. There are like a tower of pots over here that I want to plant, and hopefully I'll be able to do it today.